so much for joining us today.
Yeah, okay. So, hello everyone. Sorry about the change from yesterday, and I'm so glad you're here. So, today I'm going to be talking about befriending self doubt and fear of failure. Um, and these are the two main ways in which imposter syndrome shows up. And the reason I didn't use the term imposter syndrome here is because it has got so many connotations, which we will try and break down in the next 15, 20 minutes or so. So, self doubt and fear of failure are the core components of imposter syndrome, and there are quite a few myths around imposter syndrome. So, I thought we will kind of look at three myths with the data that's available. Uh, Befriending our fear of failure and self doubt, like befriending it, and then reframing it. So that's the way we'll go through it. And I have put a lot of my own personal journey, in with these two topics that have really shaped how I have dealt my life in the last 5 years. So, imposter phenomenon was a term coined by Pauline Clance on the left and Suzanne Imes on the right. So, these two lovely ladies were clinical psychologists in the US. And in 1978, they did this really seminal study with 178 women, and they were mainly white professional women from the middle class. And what they found was that these women had these following beliefs. So you might recognize yourself here. Other people have an overinflated view of me and my capabilities. Oh, I'm going to let everybody down even inevitably. So, I can't trust myself. If I am able to do something, right, then it negates its value. Like it's not valuable anymore. Catastrophic thinking. So if something goes really small, so it might be just one word in a presentation, for example, and then you will just think that the whole presentation is wrong or that you have let your entire team down. So these were the constellation of beliefs. And then feelings as well, right? So fearful. So they feel pretty constantly fearful about being found out, that I'm not good enough. And if you get any success, you immediately discount it, saying that, oh, it's because of luck, right? Uh, and so they came up with, Clance then came up with this imposter syndrome scale on the left. And if you can see in the chat box, I have sent a link to this questionnaire, which is just a Google form. And if you put in your email, I'm happy to score it for you and send it back to you saying what is your score. But it's a 100-point scale, 20 questions. And this is how it is kind of categorized in four categories. So this is me in 2016. As you can see, my imposter score was very high. I didn't know then that it was imposter feelings. I went to a coach, and then she said, you might be having you must be struggling with very high imposter feelings. I said, that's interesting. So I'm quite evidence-based in my head. So I went out and found the scale and I did it, and I scored 84. So I'm sitting with this amazing lady who is now 94, I think, and she is Wendy Savage, and she was one of my heroes. She is a very well-known obstetrician and gynecologist who fought for the rights of women, for abortion, for safe delivery in wards, etc. And she was targeted by her male colleagues, male obstetricians and gynecologists, saying that her way of dressing was not good and the way she practiced medicine was not good. And she was actually kind of suspended from her job, and then she went to court, and the Savage inquiry was a big one where she was brought back, and she became very, very well known for her fight. And so when I was with her, you can see I'm so happy to be with her, but deep down I was really crumbling. So the first one is this myth is that only women struggle with imposter syndrome. So let's kind of debunk this myth first. So 70% across the entire population in the Western world, this number has been quoted. So 70% of men and women, right, they struggle with imposter syndrome. But it leads on a continuum, right? So it's an occasional worry that you're not up to the task, which is very normal. So, for example, just 5 minutes before today's session, I just felt, oh my God, the tech is not working properly. Do you think it will go well, Rashmi? Maybe you should just go out. So that was just a fleeting one to a full-blown fears of being found out, like, I don't deserve to be here. Why am I here? So I'm full of anxiety. Now, the trigger, interestingly, is always a change. So if there is a change, and I've just written a few examples of change below, so a new job or becoming a parent, etc. So in the photograph of me with Wendy, which you just saw, I had just become a parent, right? And I was in the process of leaving one job and going to the next. And so the stress levels were definitely very high. Let me do full screen here. Okay. Now let's kind of think about how it affects women, men, and underrepresented groups. And this is where it gets very interesting because it debunks the whole thing of that only women struggle with it, right? So if women are having, imposter feelings, there's again evidence. These are all research studies. What it shows is that women continue to achieve, right? There's no problem with achievement. But what is exhausting for them is that they're constantly struggling with feelings of fraudulence. They tend to spend a lot more time on the tasks than those without imposter syndrome. So they just feel that it's not good enough. They keep repeat, tinkering with it, and that's exhausting as well. And worse, when they get negative feedback, they work harder. And if you can imagine the amount of gender bias that's already there in the workplace, you can see how women are extraordinarily under stress, right? And you can imagine in tech, it's even worse. For men, if they have imposter feelings, they tend to affiliate with peers with less advanced skills. For women, it's slightly different. So they kind of just say, I need to get better than the other person, but men as a group, obviously, this is not for one person, this as a group. They also take less risk. They just say, okay, that job there, it seems like too difficult for me. So either I'll move sideways or I'll move to a different job. They also are less likely to pursue certain careers. So it could be that they started off in sales, they found the whole thing of getting doing sales, getting the commissions, going in front of clients, all of that very 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 hard. So then they say, okay, where else can I do replicate these skills that I have? They might go into, for example, customer success, right? So they take less, they pursue, they kind of move sideways is what the evidence shows, or they completely change industries. Now underrepresented groups, whether you're a man or you're a woman, if you may be a person of color, or you're the first person in your family who has gone to into tech or to university, you have a cumulative impact. So you have the internal feelings of, I need to prove myself, do I deserve to be here, right? And externally, within your company, there is this issue of, am I a diversity hire, right? And sometimes when communications are bad, somebody might even just say that, oh, we had to hire a woman of color, or we had to hire a man of color. So then there is a general sense of, oh, that means I'm not good enough. So it's a double whammy, right? So that's the myth one, to give you a sense of that. Now, myth two, there's a lot of thing which you will see quite a few, kind of self-help and coach gurus kind of saying, fake it till you make it, right? So if you're feeling a bit anxious, you're feeling a bit hard and on yourself, just fake it till you make it and you'll be perfectly fine. But unfortunately, it doesn't work beyond a certain limit, and you'll see why. Now, these arrows, okay, they're the two classic imposter cycles. So, and how it starts is it's a trigger. So, let us say the trigger is for me, it could be I'm going to do a presentation representing my team in front of the CEO or the board, or, it could be any one of the higher level of management. So, then what happens is that trigger immediately starts my own internal assessment of my view and my standards. And you can see what I mean by my view and my standards. So it's both an internal expectation and an outward assessment. Like we are assessing how we are being assessed, as you know, and that's always dangerous, right? And then it triggers your fear of failure and self doubt. Okay. Then you can go one of two ways. So either you become a perfectionist, right? Or you become a procrastinator. There is no black or white division. You might be more of a perfectionist with a few procrastination tendencies, or the other way around, right? But this is to give you a flavor of the imposter cycle one and the imposter cycle two. If you're a perfectionist, you have a tendency to overwork. So you will keep, gilding the lily, so to say. Like, please, till the last minute, you're working, working, working. But if you're procrastinating, you're so anxious about it, you wait till the last minute, so if the presentation is due on a Friday, you might start work on it on a Wednesday evening, right? So you're full of stress, or maybe even a Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. And then you have a tendency to self-sabotage. What I mean by that is that the presentation is at 9 o'clock, right? And you may not have checked if the tech is working till 8:55, and the tech is not working, right? So because you're so anxious till the end, then you are kind of really burning yourself. But either way, you get success. And success means positive feedback. Your boss is happy, your team is happy, right? But the way you interpret it, because you are either a perfectionist or a procrastinator or both, is that you think, oh my God, that was really unsustainable. I mean, that amount of effort for a presentation, Jesus, I can't do this, right? Always. Or you'll think that that was just luck. I mean, I did the presentation on a Thursday afternoon. I mean, what are the chances of that, right? So it was just luck. I winged it. And then you discount your success and positive feedback because you just say it's not real. And so the cycle continues. So you can imagine now, fake it till you make it, not going to work here, right? If you keep doing this, it will work for a bit, and then there's another layer. So that is the procrastination and the perfectionism. And then there is research to suggest that there are five imposter personas, which makes it even more difficult to just fake it till you make it. You might be a perfectionist, right? So I'm not going to read out so that we have more time for chat in the end. Basically, that's what triggers your thing. You might be the expert. That's your imposter phenomenon. So it's like, I need to know every damn thing. So my imposter kind of mix when I joined tech from actually I was in academia in humanitarian health sector as well. Academia humanitarian was a mix of these. So I had this thing that I had to be the expert and it had to be perfect. So if anybody questioned me, I just would feel so anxious, saying that, oh my god, I don't know, like, I don't know this. Do I deserve to be here? You know, and then there is natural genius, and this is more I have seen sometimes, in tech companies, more who are the coders or the programmers, etc., who are like, oh, just go to him, he'll sort it out, or go to her and she'll sort it out. And then if it takes too long, then they just think that that's not, I'm not good enough. The soloist, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to work on my own, and the moment I ask for help, I'm incompetent. Again, doesn't work, especially if you're working in an agile form. The super person, right? We know all one of these in our teams or in our companies as well, or even in our homes, in our personal lives, right? Somebody who kind of just jumps into everything and say, I can do it, but actually you can see they're exhausted, they're just taking on too much. So again, fake it till you make it is so different for each one, right? So the main reason why it is unsustainable to fake it till you make it is because of burnout. So it takes an enormous amount of stress in your head. And one of the reasons, is that in our 20s and in our 30s, we are more resilient in the sense that we don't have that many pressures, etc. But as you grow older, these things keep happening and it's taking a toll on your body, right? So for me, it was in my late 30s that I had my first kind of burnout, because I was just constantly just saying, no, if I just do a little bit more, I'll be fine. So I've just put up some of the features of burnout. So if you see yourself there, do take a moment to see what's happening. Myth three, you just say success will reduce your imposter phase. Oh, you're just feeling like this because you're a junior. You know, the moment you get a promotion, you'll be fine, right? And that's not true as well. And here is this slide is a bit of a busy slide, but this is the intersectionality of imposter syndrome. And here I must pause and tell everybody about, go back to the Clance and Ime study in 1978. So that study happened at the end of the second wave of feminism, when women were entering the workforce in larger numbers, and the media was run by predominantly white men. And so the study was picked up as something, as a cautionary tale for women, right? So don't get into work, because if you go in, you're going to have imposter syndrome. But since then, there is a large body of evidence to say that self doubt and fear of failure, okay, actually is impacted by various things. Gender, as we already know, women are 1.5 times more likely to struggle with imposter syndrome than men. Race, so if you are from a black or ethnic minority, you're more likely to struggle. There's something known as a confirmation bias. Happy to talk about it in the questions later. Social class, so social class is like a proxy for, let's say, private education, right? So you might be in an industry where there are many privately educated colleagues of yours, but you went to a state school, for example, or you are a migrant and you went to a completely different school. So you don't understand the unsaid codes of communication. Migration, right? And here it could be things like, you're a refugee, or just migration from a country in need, for example, right? Body type, so LGBTQ plus body type. So there might be, kind of an unsaid almost bias if you're kind of a larger person. Family dynamics. So if you came from a family, I definitely did, from a family where always academic achievement was highly valued over everything else, right? Then you're at higher risk for an imposter syndrome. And then personality. So if you are already an anxious person or you're an introvert, again, you have more kind of chances of struggling with this. So this is my scoring. So obviously, gender, race, migration, family dynamics, and personality. So I'm an extroverted introvert, what they call. So have a think about, like, what are the various levels of intersectionality for you, right? And just write it down on a piece of paper, because that will give you a sense of how much more tougher it might be for you to actually accept that, it's not just me, nothing is wrong with you. There is evidence to show that if these things are there, then you're likely to struggle, and that is normal. The seniority piece again. So this is again a study on about 1,900 people from various levels of, across the levels of management in the company. And look at this, nothing is below 40, which is surprising, right? But see what's happening with women and men. So if you're wondering what that's about, so the researchers suggest that the reason women struggle more once they get senior is because there's not that much representation in seniority. So you don't know what to mimic, right? Who do I look up to? And if you look up to the potentially not very helpful role model, female role model, then that makes you feel even worse. Like, why am I not like her? And they also tend to look at, so if I'm in tech, I suddenly look at somebody in politics. So it's not comparable as well, right? For men, what happens is when they go to seniority, they look at it as uh, an approval of their competence, right? And they also have a lot more men around them. So there's not that much bias. Again, think of the intersectional lens though. So if you're a black man, even if you're in a seniority position, you potentially do have more problems. So these are the myths. So I hope you kind of have got this on board, about how imposter syndrome is actually not a one size fits all. Now, what does befriending look like, right? So befriending looks like, this is the way my imposter feelings. I used to feel that it was like a really, really hard, harsh boot camp coach, right? I'm actually trying to help you. So many of my clients tell me, "Oh, but Rashmi, it's really, those hard thoughts actually help me." But no, they don't, because in the long run it doesn't, right? What helps, more and more evidence is showing, is actually being more in the self-compassion mode, which is just saying, this is hard. This is hard because there are not that many women, or there are not that many colored men in my team. So what I'm feeling is actually quite normal, and I'm going to be kind to myself here and see how I can manage this, and I'll give you some more tips on how to do that. So this is what I call the clarify, choose, and create. And this is just not, it's not, I'm trying to simplify what is a complex process. It does take easily 3 to 6 months to actually unpack each of them. But this is to give you a sense of what, if you, I don't know, if you go to counseling, who somebody who is good in imposter syndrome, or you go to a coach, they'll likely take you through these processes. So you start with clarify first, and you just say, what is your imposter experience, right? So is it at work? Is it so in your social life? Like, so what are your triggers? So is it one person, or is it, let us say, going to a pub, right? So you may have come from a culture where drinking is not really central to socializing. It's not that you don't drink, but it's not central to socializing, and you just don't know how to behave with somebody, in a group of people who are drinking quite a bit, right? And I would also welcome you to just say, start with a specific situation. Always think about the one situation that really triggers all this fear of self-doubt and etc. Then own your story. So even write it down. Like, just think of all the layers that you're dealing with, whether it is class, race, body type, are you LGBTQ, family, personality, right? You own your stories and, okay, this is who I am. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. How do you want to feel? Now, this is where actually there is an aha moment for many clients I've seen. He said, okay, you are in the pub, right? You're feeling anxious, but how do you actually want to feel? So you might say, actually, I want to feel quite relaxed, and I just want to be comfortable in my skin. I'm just going to have one drink, or I might even have a non-alcoholic drink, but I just want to be comfortable with who I am. Great. Why do you want to feel that way? Right? What is the intention? Oh, because actually I want to get to know my colleagues. Aha, okay. Why do you want to get to know your colleagues? Because we hardly talk about what we do outside, outside of our coding work, or product work, or whatever is that function you are in. So then you go with that intention of staying curious with people, right? So it is not so much about, you've shifted the your lens to, people are going to judge me because I'm not drinking, for instance, to, I just want to get to know my team. And that kind of changes the whole set of, it makes them feel very comfortable, much more comfortable than worrying about what people are thinking. And then it is reframing. So the intention, it reframes a bit, saying that, okay, I'm here because my imposter syndrome, my imposter feelings come up in this situation, and that's okay. It's actually something that I need to think about and just go with an intention rather than just thinking that I'm stuck in this situation. Pick your squad, right? So pick your squad. What I mean is really your trusted 3 to 4, maximum 5 people who totally understand you, who acknowledge your intersectionality, your experience, rather than just saying, "Oh, you're fine. You were so good in university. Come on, you can still surely handle this." No, university is different. Work is different. Every company is different, right? You are not the same person you were in university. So pick your squad. So for me, it could be even online. So for me personally, like I am part of a online women's confidence group called Upfront. I highly, and all the women here, definitely please go and look it up, run by a wonderful lady called Lauren Curry. And that the group of women there really support me every time I'm kind of doing something new and it feels a bit hard for me. Choose a new imposter role, right? So if you are a perfectionist like I was, try and see what does good enough look like. Maybe good enough looks like stopping to prepare for the presentation, I don't know, half 3 hours before, maybe, for you to start off with, so you don't get too anxious, right? Or half a day before, and just say, no, I'm done now, right? So pick a new thing for a new imposter role. Now I want to end with two reframes, right? Reframes, and the reframe is, so this is what I'm kind of currently thinking about, and I just wanted to share this with you. So rather than thinking that we are in some way defective, what if having imposter feelings is just part of being human, right? Just it's just human, nothing wrong with us. Second, what if having imposter feelings is just a signal? Just a signal, nothing wrong, that you're experiencing change or you're learning something new or both, right? It allows both these ways of reframing allows us to acknowledge that it's not just a personal experience, that our imposter experience is very much part of the system we are in. And there are lots of injustices in that system. It's not an equal system. We are fighting towards it, right? But this is what is helping me these days. So last year, so this is just to say that this work does bear result, and I'm not saying it will take you 4 years or 5 years to do it, but it's just to give you a sense of it is possible. So my imposter feelings have not gone away, but I'm so glad ADAS List gave me this opportunity, because last year was the first time I really dived into the whole topic. And so now it's much manageable. It still triggers a lot at times, but it has changed. So you can do it too. And I thought we'll end with a quote from the lovely Michelle Obama, just because, yeah, we all of us know her story. Came from a very working class neighborhood in Chicago, became the first lady. And yeah, so this is what she says. And I urge you to find your squad, find your people. If you're a manager, be cognizant of this, and allow people to show up in the way they want to and support them, because yeah, imposter syndrome is here to stay, but it's not a fault. It's not a error. It's not doesn't need to be corrected. We just need to manage it, right? Yeah, so that's me, and would love to take any questions.